Rome cities defined. Rome Italian and Latin, Roma Listen is the capital city of Italy. It is also the capital of the Lazio region, the center of the metropolitan city of Rome, and a special commune named Comune di Roma Capitale, with 2,860,009 residents in 1285 km2 496.1 sq mi. Rome is the country's most populated commune and the third most populous city in the European Union by population within city limits. The metropolitan city of Rome, with a population of 4,355,725 residents, is the most populous metropolitan city in Italy. Its metropolitan area is the third most populous within Italy. Rome is located in the central western portion of the Italian peninsula, within Lazio Latium, along the shores of the Tiber. The Vatican City, the smallest country in the world, is an independent country inside the city boundaries of Rome, the only existing example of a country within a city. Rome is often referred to as the City of Seven Hills due to its geographic location, and also as the Eternal City. Rome is generally considered to be the cradle of Western civilization and Christian culture, and the center of the Catholic Church. Rome's history spans 28 centuries. While Roman mythology dates the founding of Rome at around 753 BC, the site has been inhabited for much longer, making it a major human settlement for almost 3 millennia and one of the oldest continuously occupied cities in Europe. The city's early population originated from a mix of Latins, Etruscans, and Sabines. Eventually, the city successively became the capital of the Roman Kingdom, the Roman Republic, and the Roman Empire, and is regarded by many as the first ever imperial city and metropolis. It was first called the Eternal City, Latin, Urbs Aeterna, Italian, La Cit Eterna by the Roman poet Tibullus in the 1st century BC, and the expression was also taken up by Ovid, Virgil, and Livy. Rome is also called Caput Mundi, capital of the world. After the fall of the empire in the West, which marked the beginning of the Middle Ages, Rome slowly fell under the political control of the papacy, and in the 8th century it became the capital of the Papal States, which lasted until 1870. Beginning with the Renaissance, almost all popes since Nicholas v. 14,471,455 pursued a coherent architectural and urban program over 400 years aimed at making the city the artistic and cultural center of the world. In this way, Rome became first one of the major centers of the Renaissance, and then the birthplace of both the Baroque style and Neoclassicism. Famous artists, painters, sculptors, and architects made Rome the center of their activity, creating masterpieces throughout the city. In 1871, Rome became the capital of the Kingdom of Italy, which in 1946 became the Italian Republic. In 2019, Rome was the 14th most visited city in the world, with 8.6 million tourists, the third most visited in the European Union, and the most popular tourist destination in Italy. Its historic center is listed by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site. The host city for the 1960 Summer Olympics, Rome is also the seat of several specialized agencies of the United Nations, such as the Food and Agriculture Organization FAO, the World Food Programme WFP, and the International Fund for Agricultural Development IFAD. The city also hosts the Secretariat of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Union for the Mediterranean (UFM), as well as the headquarters of many international businesses, such as Eni, Enel, TIM, Leonardo, and banks such as BNL. Numerous companies are based within Rome's Business District, such as the luxury fashion house Fendi located in the Palazzo della Civiltà Italiana. The presence of renowned international brands in the city has made Rome an important center of fashion and design, and the Cinecittà studios have been the set of many Academy Award-winning movies. Etymology. According to the ancient Romans' founding myth, the name Roma came from the city's founder and first king, Romulus. However, it is possible that the name Romulus was actually derived from Rome itself. As early as the 4th century, there have been alternative theories proposed on the origin of the name Roma. Several hypotheses have been advanced focusing on its linguistic roots, which however remain uncertain, from Rumen or Rumen, archaic name of the Tiber, which in turn is supposedly related to the Greek verb letter 1 fe5 epsilon omega reo to flow, stream, and the Latin verb vuo to hurry, rush, from the Etruscan word letter 10313 letter 10316 letter 1030 c letter 10300 Ruma, whose root is asterisk rumteat, with possible reference either to the totem wolf that adopted and suckled the cognately named twins Romulus and Remus, or to the shape of the Palatine and Aventine hills, from the Greek word letter 1 fe5 omega mu e to rh letter 1 e5 3 me, which means strength. History. Earliest history. While there have been discoveries of archaeological evidence of human occupation of the Rome area from approximately 14,000 years ago, the dense layer of much younger debris obscures Paleolithic and Neolithic sites. Evidence of stone tools, pottery, and stone weapons attest to about 10,000 years of human presence. Several excavations support the view that Rome grew from pastoral settlements on the Palatine Hill built above the area of the future Roman Forum. Between the end of the Bronze Age and the beginning of the Iron Age, each hill between the sea and the capital was topped by a village on the Capitol Hill. A village is attested since the end of the 14th century BC. However, none of them yet had an urban quality. Nowadays, there is a wide consensus that the city developed gradually through the aggregation synocism of several villages around the largest one, placed above the Palatine. This aggregation was facilitated by the increase of agricultural productivity above the subsistence level, which also allowed the establishment of secondary and tertiary activities. These, in turn, boosted the development of trade with the Greek colonies of southern Italy, mainly Ischia and Cumae. These developments, which according to archaeological evidence took place during the mid-8th century BC, can be considered as the birth of the city. Despite recent excavations at the Palatine Hill, the view that Rome was founded deliberately in the middle of the 8th century BC, as the legend of Romulus suggests, remains a fringe hypothesis. Legend of the founding of Rome. Traditional stories handed down by the ancient Romans themselves explain the earliest history of their city in terms of legend and myth. The most familiar of these myths, and perhaps the most famous of all Roman myths, is the story of Romulus and Remus, the twins who were suckled by a she-wolf. They decided to build a city, but after an argument, Romulus killed his brother and the city took his name. According to the Roman annalists, this happened on 21 April 753 BC. This legend had to be reconciled with a Jewel tradition, set earlier in time, that had the Trojan refugee Aeneas escaped to Italy and found the line of Romans through his son Aeolus, the namesake of the Julio-Claudian dynasty. This was accomplished by the Roman poet Virgil in the 1st century BC. In addition, Strabo mentions an older story, that the city was an Arcadian colony founded by Evander. Strabo also writes that Lucius Caelius Antipater believed that Rome was founded by Greeks. Late modern and contemporary. The rule of the popes was interrupted by the short-lived Roman Republic 1790 8-1800, which was established under the influence of the French Revolution. The Papal States were restored in June 1800, but during Napoleon's reign Rome was annexed as a department of the French Empire, first as Department du Tiber 1808-1810 and then as Department Rome 1810-1814. After the fall of Napoleon, the Papal States were reconstituted by a decision of the Congress of Vienna of 1814. In 1849, a second Roman Republic was proclaimed during a year of revolutions in 1848. Two of the most influential figures of the Italian unification, Giuseppe Mazzini and Giuseppe Garibaldi, fought for the short-lived republic. Rome then became the focus of hopes of Italian reunification after the rest of Italy was united as the Kingdom of Italy in 1861 with the temporary capital in Florence. That year Rome was declared the capital of Italy even though it was still under the Pope's control. During the 1860s, the last vestiges of the Papal States were under French protection thanks to the foreign policy of Napoleon Roman III. French troops were stationed in the region under Papal control. In 1870, the French troops were withdrawn due to the outbreak of the Franco-Prussian War. Italian troops were able to capture Rome entering the city through a breach near Porta Pia. Pope Pius Roman IX declared himself a prisoner in the Vatican. In 1871, the capital of Italy was moved from Florence to Rome. In 1870, the population of the city was 212,000, all of whom lived with the area circumscribed by the ancient city, and in 1920, the population was 660,000. A significant portion lived outside the walls in the north and across the Tiber in the Vatican area. Soon after World War I in late 1922, Rome witnessed the rise of Italian fascism led by Benito Mussolini, who led a march on the city. He did away with democracy by 1926, eventually declaring a new Italian empire and allying Italy with Nazi Germany in 1938. Mussolini demolished fairly large parts of the city's center in order to build wide avenues and squares, which were supposed to celebrate the fascist regime and the resurgence and glorification of classical Rome. The interwar period saw a rapid growth in the city's population, which surpassed 1 million inhabitants soon after 1930. During World War Roman II, due to the art treasuries and the presence of the Vatican, Rome largely escaped the tragic destiny of other European cities. However, on 19 July 1943, the San Lorenzo district was subject to Allied bombing raids, resulting in about 3,000 fatalities and 11,000 injuries, of whom another 1,500 died. Mussolini was arrested on 25 July 1943. On the date of the Italian armistice 8 September 1943, the city was occupied by the Germans. The Pope declared Rome an open city. It was liberated on 4 June 1944. Rome developed greatly after the war as part of the Italian economic miracle of post-war reconstruction and modernization in the 1950s and early 1960s. During this period, the years of La Dolce Vita, the sweet life, Rome became a fashionable city with popular classic films such as Ben-Hur, Quo Vadis, Roman Holiday, and La Dolce Vita filmed in the city's iconic Cinecittà studios. The rising trend in population growth continued until the mid-1980s when the commune had more than 2.8 million residents. After this, the population declined slowly as people began to move to nearby suburbs. Government. Local government. Rome constitutes a commune special named Roma Capitale and is the largest both in terms of land area and population among the 8,101 comuni of Italy. It is governed by a mayor and a city council. The seat of the commune is the Palazzo Senatorio on the Capitoline Hill, the historic seat of the city government. The local administration in Rome is commonly referred to as Campidoglio, the Italian name of the hill. Administrative and historical subdivisions. Since 1972, the city has been divided into administrative areas called municipi, municipio until 2001 named Circus Chrysiani. They were created for administrative reasons to increase decentralization in the city. Each municipio is governed by a president and a council of 25 members who are elected by its residents every 5 years. The municipi frequently cross the boundaries of the traditional non-administrative divisions of the city. The municipi were originally 20, then 19, and in 2013 their number was reduced to 15. Rome is also divided into differing types of non-administrative units. The historic center is divided into 22 rioni, all of which are located within the Aurelian walls except Prati and Borgo. These originate from the 14 regions of Augustan Rome, which evolved in the Middle Ages into the medieval rioni. In the Renaissance, under Pope Sixtus V, they again reached 14, and their boundaries were finally defined under Pope Benedict Roman XIV in 1743. A new subdivision of the city under Napoleon was ephemeral, and there were no serious changes in the organization of the city until 1870, when Rome became the third capital of Italy. The needs of the new capital led to an explosion both in the urbanization and in the population within and outside the Aurelian walls. In 1874, a 15th rione, Esquilino, was created on the newly urbanized zone of Monte. At the beginning of the 20th century, other rioni were created. The last one was Preti, the only one outside the walls of Pope Urban Roman VIII in 1921. Afterwards, for the new administrative subdivisions of the city, the term quartier was used. Today all the rioni are part of the first municipio, which therefore coincides completely with the historical city Centro Storico. Metropolitan and regional government. Rome is the principal town of the metropolitan city of Rome, operated since 1 January 2015. The metropolitan city replaced the old Provincia di Roma, which included the city's metropolitan area and extends further north until Civitavecchia. The metropolitan city of Rome is the largest by area in Italy. At 5,352 km2 2066 sq mi, its dimensions are comparable to the region of Liguria. Moreover, the city is also the capital of the Lazio region. National government. Rome is the national capital of Italy and is the seat of the Italian government. The official residences of the President of the Italian Republic and the Italian Prime Minister, the seats of both houses of the Italian Parliament and that of the Italian Constitutional Court are located in the historic center. The state ministries are spread out around the city. These include the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which is located in Palazzo della Farnesina near the Olympic Stadium. Geography. Topography. Throughout the history of Rome, the urban limits of the city were considered to be the area within the city's walls. Originally, these consisted of the Servian Wall, which was built 12 years after the Gaulish sack of the city in 390 BC. This contained most of the Esquiline and Caelian hills, as well as the whole of the other 5. Rome outgrew the Servian Wall, but no more walls were constructed until almost 700 years later, when in 270 A.D. Emperor Aurelian began building the Aurelian walls. These were almost 19 km 12 mi long, and were still the walls the troops of the Kingdom of Italy had to breach to enter the city in 1870. The city's urban area is cut in two by its ring road, the Grand Raccordo Annular GRA, finished in 1962, which circles the city centre at a distance of about 10 km 6 mi. Although when the ring was completed most parts of the inhabited area lay inside it, one of the few exceptions was the former village of Ostia, which lies along the Tyrrhenian coast. In the meantime quarters have been built, which extend up to 20 km 12 mi beyond it. The commune covers an area roughly 3 times the total area within the Raccordo and is comparable in area to the entire metropolitan cities of Milan and Naples, and to an area 6 times the size of the territory of these cities. It also includes considerable areas of abandoned marshland, which is suitable neither for agriculture nor for urban development. As a consequence, the density of the commune is not that high, its territory being divided between highly urbanized areas and areas designated as parks, nature reserves, and for agricultural use. Climate. Rome has a Mediterranean climate Köppen climate classification, CSA, with hot, dry summers and mild, humid winters. Its average annual temperature is above 21 degrees C 70 degrees F during the day and 9 degrees C, 48 degrees F at night. In the coldest month, January, the average temperature is 12.6 degrees C, 54.7 degrees F during the day and 2.1 degrees C, 35.8 degrees F at night. In the warmest month, August, the average temperature is 31.7 degrees C, 89.1 degrees F during the day and 17.3 degrees C, 63.1 degrees F at night. December, January, and February are the coldest months, with a daily mean temperature of approximately 8 degrees C, 46 degrees F. Temperatures during these months generally vary between 10 and 15 degrees C, 50 and 59 degrees F during the day, and between 3 and 5 degrees C, 37 and 41 degrees F at night, with colder or warmer spells occurring frequently. Snowfall is rare but not unheard of, with light snow or flurries occurring on some winters, generally without accumulation, and major snowfalls on a very rare occurrence. The most recent ones were in 2018, 2012, and 1986. The average relative humidity is 75%, varying from 72% in July to 77% in November. Sea temperatures vary from a low of 13.9 degrees C, 57.0 degrees F in February, to a high of 25.0 degrees C, 77.0 degrees F in August. Ethnic groups. According to the latest statistics conducted by ISTAT, approximately 9.5% of the population consists of non-Italians. About half of the immigrant population consists of those of various other European origins, chiefly Romanian, Polish, Ukrainian, and Albanian, numbering a combined total of 131,118, or 4.7% of the population. The remaining 4.8% are those with non-European origins, chiefly Filipinos 26,933, Bangladeshis 12,154, and Chinese 10,283. The Esquilino-Rioni off-Termini railway station has evolved into a largely immigrant neighborhood. It is perceived as Rome's Chinatown. Immigrants from more than 100 different countries reside there. A commercial district, Esquilino contains restaurants featuring many kinds of international cuisine. There are wholesale clothes shops. Of the 1,300 or so commercial premises operating in the district, 800 are Chinese-owned, around 300 are run by immigrants from other countries around the world, 200 are owned by Italians. Religion. Much like the rest of Italy, Rome is predominantly Christian, and the city has been an important center of religion and pilgrimage for centuries, the base of the ancient Roman religion with the Pontifex Maximus, and later the seat of the Vatican and the Pope. Before the arrival of the Christians in Rome, the Religio Romana, literally, the Roman religion, was the major religion of the city in classical antiquity. The first gods held sacred by the Romans were Jupiter, the Most High, and Mars, the god of war, and father of Rome's twin founders, Romulus and Remus, according to tradition. Other deities such as Vesta and Minerva were honored. Rome was also the base of several mystery cults, such as Mithraism. Later, after St. Peter and St. Paul were martyred in the city, and the first Christians began to arrive, Rome became Christian, and the old St. Peter's Basilica was constructed in 313 AD. Despite some interruptions, such as the Avignon papacy, Rome has for centuries been the home of the Roman Catholic Church and the Bishop of Rome, otherwise known as the Pope. Despite the fact that Rome is home to the Vatican City and St. Peter's Basilica, Rome's cathedral is the Archbasilica of St. John Lateran in the southeast of the city center. There are around 900 churches in Rome in total. Aside from the cathedral itself, some others of note include the Basilica di Santa Maria Maggiore, the Basilica of St. Paul outside the walls, the Basilica di San Clement, San Carlo alle Quattro Fontane, and the Church of the Gesù. There are also the ancient catacombs of Rome underneath the city. Numerous highly important religious educational institutions are also in Rome, such as the Pontifical Lateran University, Pontifical Biblical Institute, Pontifical Gregorian University, and Pontifical Oriental Institute. Since the end of the Roman Republic, Rome is also the center of an important Jewish community, which was once based in Trastevere and later in the Roman Ghetto. There lies also the major synagogue in Rome, the Tempio Maggiore. Vatican City. The territory of Vatican City is part of the Mons Vaticanus Vatican Hill and of the adjacent former Vatican Fields, where St. Peter's Basilica, the Apostolic Palace, the Sistine Chapel, and museums were built, along with various other buildings. The area was part of the Roman Rione of Borgo until 1929. Being separated from the city on the west bank of the Tiber, the area was a suburb that was protected by being included within the walls of Leo Roman IV, later expanded by the current fortification walls of Paul Roman III, Pius Roman IV, and Urban Roman VIII. When the Lateran Treaty of 1929 that created the Vatican State was being prepared, the boundaries of the proposed territory were influenced by the fact that much of it was all but enclosed by this loop. For some parts of the border there was no wall, but the line of certain buildings supplied part of the boundary, and for a small part a new wall was constructed. The territory includes St. Peter's Square, separated from the territory of Italy only by a white line along with the limit of the square, where it borders Piazza Pio Roman XII. St. Peter's Square is reached through the Via della Conciliazione, which runs from the Tiber to St. Peter's. This grand approach was designed by architects Piacentini and Spacchioli on the instructions of Benito Mussolini and in accordance with the Church after the conclusion of the Lateran Treaty. According to the treaty, certain properties of the Holy See located in Italian territory, most notably the Papal Palace of Castel Gandolfo and the major basilicas, enjoy extraterritorial status similar to that of foreign embassies. Pilgrimage. Rome has been a major Christian pilgrimage site since the Middle Ages. People from all over the Christian world visit Vatican City, within the city of Rome, the seat of the papacy. The city became a major pilgrimage site during the Middle Ages. Apart from brief periods as an independent city during the Middle Ages, Rome kept its status as papal capital and holy city for centuries, even when the papacy briefly relocated to Avignon 1309–1377. Catholics believe that the Vatican is the last resting place of St. Peter. Pilgrimages to Rome can involve visits to many sites, both within Vatican City and in Italian territory. A popular stopping point is the Pilates Stairs. These are, according to the Christian tradition, the steps that led up to the Praetorium of Pontius Pilate in Jerusalem, which Jesus Christ stood on during his passion on his way to trial. The stairs were reputedly brought to Rome by Helena of Constantinople in the 4th century. For centuries, the Scala Santa has attracted Christian pilgrims who wish to honor the passion of Jesus. Other objects of pilgrimage include several catacombs built in imperial times, in which Christians prayed, buried their dead, and performed worship during periods of persecution, and various national churches, among them San Luigi dei Francesi and Santa Maria dell'Anima, or churches associated with individual religious orders, such as the Jesuit churches of Jesus and Sant'Ignazio. Traditionally, pilgrims in Rome as well as devout Romans visit the 7 pilgrim churches Italian, Le Setchis in 24 hours. This custom, mandatory for each pilgrim in the Middle Ages, was codified in the 16th century by St. Philip Neri. The 7 churches are the 4 major basilicas: St. Peter in the Vatican, St. Paul outside the walls, St. John in Lateran, and Santa Maria Maggiore, while the other 3 are San Lorenzo Fuori le Mura, an early Christian basilica, Santa Croce in Jerusalem, a church founded by Helena, the mother of Constantine, which hosts fragments of wood attributed to the Holy Cross, and San Sebastiano Fuori la Muro, which lies on the Appian Way and is built above the catacombs of San Sebastiano. Cityscape. Architecture. Rome's architecture over the centuries has greatly developed, especially from the classical and imperial Roman styles to modern fascist architecture. Rome was for a period one of the world's main epicenters of classical architecture, developing new forms such as the arch, the dome, and the vault. The Romanesque style in the 11th, 12th, and 13th centuries was also widely used in Roman architecture, and later the city became one of the main centers of Renaissance, Baroque, and neoclassical architecture. Ancient Rome. One of the symbols of Rome is the Colosseum Septimius 80 AD, the largest amphitheater ever built in the Roman Empire. Originally capable of seating 60,000 spectators, it was used for gladiatorial combat. Important monuments and sites of ancient Rome include the Roman Forum, the Domus Aurea, the Pantheon, Trajan's Column, Trajan's Market, the Catacombs, the Circus Maximus, the Baths of Caracalla, Castel Sant'Angelo, the Mausoleum of Augustus, the Arapacis, the Arch of Constantine, the Pyramid of Cestius, and the Bocca della Verità. Medieval. The medieval popular quarters of the city, situated mainly around the capital, were largely demolished between the end of the 19th century and the Fascist period, but many notable buildings still remain. Basilicas dating from Christian antiquity include St. Mary Major and St. Paul outside the walls, the latter largely rebuilt in the 19th century, both housing precious 4th century AD mosaics. Notable later medieval mosaics and frescoes can be also found in the churches of Santa Maria in Trastevere, Santi Quattro Carnati, and Santa Prassede. Secular buildings include a number of towers, the largest being the Torre del Milesi and the Torre dei Conti, both next to the Roman Forum, and the huge outdoor stairway leading up to the Basilica of Santa Maria in Aracoli. Renaissance and Baroque. Rome was a major world center of the Renaissance, second only to Florence, and was profoundly affected by the movement. Among others, a masterpiece of Renaissance architecture in Rome is the Piazza del Campidoglio by Michelangelo. During this period, the great aristocratic families of Rome used to build opulent dwellings as the Palazzo del Quirinale, now seat of the President of the Italian Republic, the Palazzo Venezia, the Palazzo Farnese, the Palazzo Barberini, the Palazzo Chigi, now seat of the Italian Prime Minister, the Palazzo Spada, the Palazzo della Cancelleria, and the Villa Farnesina. Many of the famous city squares, some huge, majestic, and often adorned with obelisks, some small and picturesque, took their present shape during the Renaissance and Baroque periods. The principal ones are Piazza Navona, the Spanish Steps, Campo de' Fiori, Piazza Venezia, Piazza Farnese, Piazza della Rotonda, and Piazza della Minerva. One of the most emblematic examples of Baroque art is the Trevi Fountain by Nicola Salvi. Other notable 17th century Baroque palaces are the Palazzo Madama, now the seat of the Italian Senate, and the Palazzo Montecitorio, now the seat of the Chamber of Deputies of Italy. Neoclassicism. In 1870, Rome became the capital city of the new Kingdom of Italy. During this time, neoclassicism, a building style influenced by the architecture of antiquity, became the predominant influence in Roman architecture. During this period, many great palaces in neoclassical styles were built to host ministries, embassies, and other government agencies. One of the best-known symbols of Roman neoclassicism is the monument to Vittorio Emanuele Roman II, or Altar of the Fatherland, where the grave of the unknown soldier, who represents the 650,000 Italian soldiers who died in World War I, is located. Fascist architecture. The fascist regime that ruled in Italy between 1922 and 1943 had its showcase in Rome. Mussolini ordered the construction of new roads and piazzas, resulting in the destruction of older roads, houses, churches, and palaces erected during papal rule. The main activities during his government were the isolation of the Capitoline Hill, Via dei Monti, later renamed Via dell'Impero, and finally Via dei Fori Imperiali, Via del Mare, later renamed Via del Tetro di Marcello, the isolation of the Mausoleum of Augustus, with the erection of Piazza Augusto Imperator and Via della Consigli Zioni. Architecturally, Italian fascism favored the most modern movements, such as rationalism. Parallel to this, in the 1920s another style emerged, named Style Novecento, characterized by its links with ancient Roman architecture. Two important complexes in the latter style are the Foro Mussolini, now Foro Italico, by Enrico del Debbio, and the Città Universitaria University City, by Marcello Piacentini, also author of the controversial destruction of part of the Borgo Riani to open Via della Consigli Zioni. The most important fascist site in Rome is the Ur district, designed in 1938 by Piacentini. This new quarter emerged as a compromise between rationalist and Novecento architects, the former being led by Giuseppe Pagano. The Ur was originally conceived for the 1942 World Exhibition and was called E42 Espace Zioni 42. The most representative buildings of Ur are the Palazzo della Civiltà Italiana 1938-1943 and the Palazzo dei Congressi, examples of the rationalist style. The World Exhibition never took place because Italy entered the Second World War in 1940 and the buildings were partly destroyed in 1943 in fighting between the Italian and German armies and later abandoned. The quarter was restored in the 1950s when the Roman authorities found that they already had the seed of an off-center business district of the type that other capitals were still planning: London Docklands and La Défense in Paris. Also, the Palazzo della Farnesina, the current seat of the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, was designed in 1935 in pure fascist style. Parks and gardens. Public parks and nature reserves cover a large area in Rome, and the city has one of the largest areas of green space among European capitals. The most notable part of this green space is represented by the large number of villas and landscaped gardens created by the Italian aristocracy. While most of the parks surrounding the villas were destroyed during the building boom of the late 19th century, some of them remain. The most notable of these are the Villa Borghese, Villa Ada, and Villa Doria Pamphili. Villa Doria Pamphili is west of the Giannicolo Hill, comprising some 1.8 km to 0.7 sq mi. The Villa Sira is on the hill, with playgrounds for children and shaded walking areas. In the nearby area of Trastevere, the Orto Botanico Botanical Garden is a cool and shady green space. The old Roman Hippodrome Circus Maximus is another large green space. It has few trees, but is overlooked by the Palatine and the Rose Garden Rosto Comunale. Nearby is the lush Villa Celentana, close to the gardens surrounding the baths of Caracalla. The Villa Borghese garden is the best known large green space in Rome, with famous art galleries among its shaded walks. Overlooking Piazza del Popolo and the Spanish Steps are the gardens of Pincio and Villa Medici. There is also a notable pine wood at Castelfusano, near Ostia. Rome also has a number of regional parks of much more recent origin, including the Pinto Regional Park and the Appian Way Regional Park. There are also nature reserves at Marsigliana and at Tenuta di Castelporzino. Fountains and aqueducts. Rome is a city famous for its numerous fountains, built in all different styles, from classical and medieval to baroque and neoclassical. The city has had fountains for more than 2,000 years, and they have provided drinking water and decorated the piazzas of Rome. During the Roman Empire in 98 AD, according to Sextus Julius Frontinus, The Roman consul who was named curator aquarum, or guardian of the water of the city. Rome had 9 aqueducts which fed 39 monumental fountains and 591 public basins, not counting the water supplied to the imperial household, baths, and owners of private villas. Each of the major fountains was connected to 2 different aqueducts in case one was shut down for service. During the 17th and 18th century, the Roman popes reconstructed other ruined Roman aqueducts and built new display fountains to mark their termini, launching the golden age of the Roman fountain. The fountains of Rome, like the paintings of Rubens, were expressions of the new style of Baroque art. They were crowded with allegorical figures and filled with emotion and movement. In these fountains, sculpture became the principal element, and the water was used simply to animate and decorate the sculptures. They, like Baroque gardens, were a visual representation of confidence and power. Statues. Rome is well known for its statues, but, in particular, the talking statues of Rome. These are usually ancient statues which have become popular soapboxes for political and social discussion, and places for people to often satirically voice their opinions. There are 2 main talking statues, the Pasquino and the Marforio, yet there are 4 other noted ones, Il Babuino, Madama Lucrezia, Il Facchino, and Abbot Luigi. Most of these statues are ancient Roman or classical, and most of them also depict mythical gods, ancient people, or legendary figures. Il Pasquino represents Menelaus, Abbot Luigi is an unknown Roman magistrate, Il Babuino is supposed to be Silenus, Marforio represents Osinus, Madama Lucrezia is a bust of Assize, and Il Facchino is the only non-Roman statue created in 1580 and not representing anyone in particular. They are often, due to their status, covered with placards or graffiti expressing political ideas and points of view. Other statues in the city, which are not related to the talking statues, include those of the Ponte Sant'Angelo, or several monuments scattered across the city, such as that to Giordano Bruno in the Campo Dafferi. Obelisks and columns. The city hosts 8 ancient Egyptian and 5 ancient Roman obelisks, together with a number of more modern obelisks. There was also formerly, until 2005, an ancient Ethiopian obelisk in Rome. The city contains some of obelisks in paises, such as in Piazza Navona, St. Peter's Square, Piazza Montecitorio, and Piazza del Popolo, and others in villas, Thermi parks, and gardens, such as in Villa Silimentana, the Baths of Diocletian, and the Pincian Hill. Moreover, the center of Rome hosts also Trajan's and Antonine Column, 2 ancient Roman columns with spiral relief. The column of Marcus Aurelius is located in Piazza Colonna, and it was built around 180 A.D. by Commodus in memory of his parents. The column of Marcus Aurelius was inspired by Trajan's column at Trajan's Forum, which is part of the Imperial Fora. Bridges. The city of Rome contains numerous famous bridges which cross the Tiber. The only bridge to remain unaltered until today from the classical age is Ponte Quattro Capi, which connects the Isola Tiberino with the left bank. The other surviving, albeit modified, ancient Roman bridges crossing the Tiber are Ponte Cestio, Ponte Sant'Angelo, and Ponte Milvio. Considering Ponte Nomentano, also built during ancient Rome, which crosses the Anniine, currently there are 5 ancient Roman bridges still remaining in the city. Other noteworthy bridges are Ponte Sisto, the first bridge built in the Renaissance above Roman foundations, Ponte Roito, actually the only remaining arch of the ancient Pons Emilius, collapsed during the flood of 1598 and demolished at the end of the 19th century, and Ponte Vittorio Emanuele Roman II, a modern bridge connecting Corso Vittorio Emanuele and Borgo. Most of the city's public bridges were built in classical or Renaissance style, but also in Baroque, neoclassical, and modern styles. According to the Encyclopaedia Britannica, The finest ancient bridge remaining in Rome is the Ponte Sant'Angelo, which was completed in 135 A.D. and was decorated with 10 statues of the angels designed by Bernini in 1688. Catacombs. Rome has an extensive amount of ancient catacombs or underground burial places under or near the city, of which there are at least 40, some discovered only in recent decades. Though most famous for Christian burials, they include pagan and Jewish burials, either in separate catacombs or mixed together. The first large-scale catacombs were excavated from the 2nd century onwards. Originally they were carved through tuff, a soft volcanic rock, outside the boundaries of the city, because Roman law forbade burial places within city limits. Currently, maintenance of the catacombs is in the hands of the papacy, which has invested in the Salesians of Don Bosco the supervision of the catacombs of St. Calixtus on the outskirts of Rome. Economy. As the capital of Italy, Rome hosts all the principal institutions of the nation, including the presidency of the Republic, the government and its single ministry, the parliament, the main judicial courts, and the diplomatic representatives of all the countries for the states of Italy and Vatican City. Many international institutions are located in Rome, notably cultural and scientific ones, such as the American Institute, the British School, the French Academy, the Scandinavian Institutes, and the German Archaeological Institute. There are also specialized agencies of the United Nations, such as the Food and Agriculture Organization FAO. Rome also hosts major international and worldwide political and cultural organizations, such as the International Fund for Agricultural Development IFAD, World Food Programme WFP, the NATO Defense College, and the International Center for the Study of the Preservation and Restoration of Cultural Property ICROM. According to the GODWC study of world cities, Rome is a Beta Plus city. The city was ranked in 2014 as 32nd in the Global Cities Index, the highest in Italy. With a 2005 GDP of euros 94.376 billion US $21.5 billion, the city produces 6.7% of the national GDP, more than any other single city in Italy, and its unemployment rate, lowered from 11.1% to 6.5% between 2001 and 2005, is now one of the lowest rates of all the European Union capital cities. Rome's economy grows at around 4.4% annually and continues to grow at a higher rate in comparison to any other city in the rest of the country. This means that were Rome a country, it would be the world's 52nd richest country by GDP, near to the size to that of Egypt. Rome also had a 2003 GDP per capita of euros 29,153 US 7,412, which was second in Italy after Milan and is more than 134.1% of the EU average GDP per capita. Rome, on the whole, has the highest total earnings in Italy, reaching euros 47,076,890,463 in 2008. Yet, in terms of average workers' incomes, the city places itself ninth in Italy, with euros 24,509. On a global level, Rome's workers received the 30th highest wages in 2009, coming 3 places higher than in 2008, in which the city ranked 33rd. The Rome area had a GDP amounting to 67.8 billion and 8,765 per capita. Although the economy of Rome is characterized by the absence of heavy industry, and it is largely dominated by services, high technology companies, IT, aerospace, defense, telecommunications, research, construction and commercial activities, especially banking, and the huge development of tourism are very dynamic and extremely important to its economy. Rome's international airport, Fiumicino, is the largest in Italy and the city hosts the head offices of the vast majority of the major Italian companies, as well as the headquarters of three of the world's 100 largest companies, Enel, Eni, and Telecom Italia. Universities, national radio and television, and the movie industry in Rome are also important parts of the economy. Rome is also the hub of the Italian film industry, thanks to the Cinecittà studios, working since the 1930s. The city is also a center for banking and insurance, as well as electronics, energy, transport, and aerospace industries. Numerous international companies and agencies' headquarters, government ministries, conference centers, sports venues, and museums are located in Rome's principal business districts: the Espace Zioni Universal Roma Eur, the Torino further south from the Eur, the Magliana, the Parco di Medici Laurentina, and the so-called Tiburtina Valley along the ancient Via Tiburtina. Education. Rome is a nationwide and major international center for higher education, containing numerous academies, colleges, and universities. It boasts a large variety of academies and colleges, and has always been a major worldwide intellectual and educational center, especially during ancient Rome and the Renaissance, along with Florence. According to the City Brands Index, Rome is considered the world's second most historically, educationally, and culturally interesting and beautiful city. Rome has many universities and colleges. Its first university, La Sapienza, founded in 1303, is one of the largest in the world, with more than 140,000 students attending. In 2005 it ranked as Europe's 33rd best university, and in 2013 the Sapienza University of Rome ranked as the 62nd in the world and the top in Italy in its World University Rankings, and has been ranked among Europe's 50 and the world's 150 best colleges. In order to decrease the overcrowding of La Sapienza, 2 new public universities were founded during the last decades: Tor Vergata in 1982 and Roma Tre in 1992. Rome hosts also the Lewis School of Government, Italy's most important graduate university in the areas of international affairs and European studies, as well as Lewis Business School, Italy's most important business school. Rome ISA was founded in 1973 by Giulio Carlo Argan and is Italy's oldest institution in the field of industrial design. Rome contains many pontifical universities and other institutes, including the British School at Rome, the French School in Rome, the Pontifical Gregorian University, the oldest Jesuit university in the world, founded in 1551, Istituto Europeo di Design, the Scuola Lorenzo de' Medici, the Link campus of Malta, and the Università Campus Biomedico. Rome is also the location of 2 American universities, the American University of Rome and John Cabot University, as well as St. John's University branch campus, John Phillis Rome Center, a campus of Loyola University, Chicago, and Temple University Rome, a campus of Temple University. The Roman colleges are several seminaries for students from foreign countries studying for the priesthood at the pontifical universities. Examples include the Venerable English College, the Pontifical North American College, the Scots College, and the Pontifical Croatian College of St. Jerome. Rome's major libraries include the Biblioteca Angelica, opened in 1604, making it Italy's first public library; the Biblioteca Vallisoletana, established in 1565; the Biblioteca Cassinetans, opened in 1701; the National Central Library, one of the 2 national libraries in Italy, which contains 4,126,002 volumes; the Biblioteca del Ministero degli Affari Esteri, specialized in diplomacy, foreign affairs, and modern history; the Biblioteca dell'Istituto dell'Enciclopedia Italiana; the Biblioteca Don Bosco, one of the largest and most modern of all Salesian libraries; the Biblioteca e Museo Teatrale del Bernardo, a museum library specialized in history of drama and theatre; the Biblioteca della Società Geografica Italiana, which is based in the Villa Celentana and is the most important geographical library in Italy and one of Europe's most important, and the Vatican Library, one of the oldest and most important libraries in the world, which was formally established in 1475, though in fact much older, and has 75,000 codices as well as 1.1 million printed books, which include some 8,500 incunabulat. There are also many specialist libraries attached to various foreign cultural institutes in Rome, among them that of the American Academy in Rome, the French Academy in Rome, and the Bibliotheca Hertziana Max Planck Institute of Art History, a German library often noted for excellence in the arts and sciences. Culture, entertainment, and performing arts. Rome is an important center for music, and it has an intense musical scene, including several prestigious music conservatories and theaters. It hosts the Accademia Nazionale di Santa Cecilia, founded in 1585, for which new concert halls have been built in the new Parco della Musica, one of the largest musical venues in the world. Rome also has an opera house, the Teatro dell'Opera di Roma, as well as several minor musical institutions. The city also played host to the Eurovision Song Contest in 1991 and the MTV Europe Music Awards in 2004. Rome has also had a major impact on music history. The Roman school was a group of composers of predominantly church music, which were active in the city during the 16th and 17th centuries, therefore spanning the late Renaissance and early Baroque eras. The term also refers to the music they produced. Many of the composers had a direct connection to the Vatican and the Papal Chapel. Though they worked at several churches, stylistically they are often contrasted with the Venetian school of composers, a concurrent movement which was much more progressive. By far the most famous composer of the Roman school is Giovanni Pierluigi da Palestrina, whose name has been associated for 400 years with smooth, clear, polyphonic perfection. However, there were other composers working in Rome, and in a variety of styles and forms. Between 1960 and 1970, Rome was considered to be as a new Hollywood because of the many actors and directors who worked there. Via Vittorio Veneto had transformed into a glamour place where you could meet famous people. Fashion. Rome is also widely recognized as a world fashion capital. Although not as important as Milan, Rome is the fourth most important center for fashion in the world, according to the 2009 Global Language Monitor, after Milan, New York, and Paris, and beating London. Major luxury fashion houses and jewelry chains such as Valentino, Bulgari, Fendi, Laura Biagiotti, Brioni, and Renato Balestra are headquartered or were founded in the city. Also, other major labels such as Gucci, Chanel, Prada, Dolce & Gabbana, Armani, and Versace have luxury boutiques in Rome, primarily along its prestigious and upscale Via dei Condotti. Cuisine. Rome's cuisine has evolved through centuries and periods of social, cultural, and political changes. Rome became a major gastronomical center during the ancient age. Ancient Roman cuisine was highly influenced by ancient Greek culture, and after, the empire's enormous expansion exposed Romans to many new provincial culinary habits and cooking techniques. Rome's cuisine has evolved through centuries and periods of social, cultural, and political changes. Rome became a major gastronomical center during the ancient age. Ancient Roman cuisine was highly influenced by ancient Greek culture, and after, the empire's enormous expansion exposed Romans to many new provincial culinary habits and cooking techniques. Later, during the Renaissance, Rome became well known as a center of high cuisine, since some of the best chefs of the time worked for the popes. An example of this was Bartolomeo Scappi, who was a chef working for Pace Roman IV in the Vatican kitchen, and he acquired fame in 1570 when his cookbook Opera del Cucinaire was published. In the book he lists approximately 1,000 recipes of the Renaissance cuisine and describes cooking techniques and tools, giving the first known picture of a fork. The testaccio, Rome's trade and slaughterhouse area, was often known as the belly or slaughterhouse of Rome, and was inhabited by butchers or vaccinari. The most common or ancient Roman cuisine included the fifth quarter. The old-fashioned coda alla vaccinar oxtail cooked in the way of butchers is still one of the city's most popular meals and is part of most of Rome's restaurants' menus. Lamb is also a very popular part of Roman cuisine, and is often roasted with spices and herbs. In the modern age, the city developed its own peculiar cuisine based on products of the nearby Campagna as lamb and vegetables. Globe artichokes are common. In parallel, Roman Jews present in the city since the 1st century BC developed their own cuisine, the cucina giudaico-romanesca. Examples of Roman dishes include saltimbocca alla romana, a veal cutlet, Roman style, topped with raw ham and sage and simmered with white wine and butter; carciofi alla romana, artichokes Roman style, outer leaves removed, stuffed with mint, garlic, breadcrumbs, and braised; carciofi alla Giudia, artichokes fried in olive oil, typical of Roman Jewish cooking, outer leaves removed, stuffed with mint, garlic, breadcrumbs, and braised; spaghetti alla carbonara, spaghetti with bacon, eggs, and pecorino; and gnocchi di semolino alla romana, semolina dumpling, Roman style. Wildlife. In 2021, Rome was invaded by feral boars which plundered trash, disrupted traffic, and threatened residents. There are now approximately 5,000–6,000 wild boars in the city. Mayor Virginia Raggi sued the Lazio region for failing to defend the city, while other critics have faulted Rome's failure at trash collection. "We must act as soon as possible and involve the army if necessary," said Cole Diarty. Picnics were banned in northern Rome as health authorities moved to contain the wild boar population after African swine fever was detected in a deceased animal. Language. Although associated today only with Latin, ancient Rome was in fact multilingual. In the highest antiquity, Sabine tribes shared the area of what is today Rome with Latin tribes. The Sabine language was one of the Italic group of ancient Italian languages, along with Etruscan, which would have been the main language of the last three kings who ruled the city till the founding of the Republic in 509 BC. Erginilla, or Plosh Ergilinilla, wife of Emperor Claudius, is thought to have been a speaker of Etruscan many centuries after this date, according to Suetonius' entry on Claudius. However, Latin in various evolving forms was the main language of classical Rome, but as the city had immigrants, slaves, residents, ambassadors from many parts of the world, it was also multilingual. Many educated Romans also spoke Greek, and there was a large Greek, Syriac, and Jewish population in parts of Rome from well before the empire. Latin evolved during the Middle Ages into a new language, the Vulgare. The latter emerged as the confluence of various regional dialects, among which the Tuscan dialect predominated, but the population of Rome also developed its own dialect, the Romanesco. The Romanesco spoken during the Middle Ages was more like a southern Italian dialect, very close to the Neapolitan language in Campania. The influence of the Florentine culture during the Renaissance, and above all, the immigration to Rome of many Florentines following the two Medici popes Leo X and Clement Roman VII, caused a major shift in the dialect, which began to resemble more the Tuscan varieties. This remained largely confined to Rome until the 19th century, but then expanded to other zones of Lazio, Civitavecchia, Latina, and others, from the beginning of the 20th century, thanks to the rising population of Rome and to improving transportation systems. As a consequence of education and media like radio and television, Romanesto became more similar to Standard Italian, but does not represent Standard Italian. Dialectal literature in the traditional form of Romanesco includes the works of such authors as G. Septioncino Belli, Troilus, and Cesare Pasquerla. It is worth remembering, though, that Romanesco was a lingio-vernacola vernacular language, meaning that for centuries it did not have a written form, but it was only spoken by the population. Contemporary Romanesco is mainly represented by popular actors and actresses such as Alberto Sordi, Aldo Fabrizi, Anna Magnani, Carlo Verdone, Enrico Montezano, Gigi Poeti, and Nino Manfredi. Rome's historic contribution to language in a worldwide sense is much more extensive, however. Through the process of Romanization, the peoples of Italy, Gallia, the Iberian Peninsula, and Dacia developed languages which derived directly from Latin and were adopted in large areas of the world, all through cultural influence, colonization, and migration. Moreover, also modern English, because of the Norman conquest, borrowed a large percentage of its vocabulary from the Latin language. The Roman, or Latin alphabet, is the most widely used writing system in the world, used by the greatest number of languages. Rome has long hosted artistic communities, foreign resident communities, and many foreign religious students or pilgrims, and so has always been a multilingual city. Today, because of mass tourism, many languages are used in servicing tourism, especially English, which is widely known in tourist areas, and the city hosts large numbers of immigrants and so has many multilingual immigrant areas. Sports. Association football is the most popular sport in Rome, as in the rest of the country. The city hosted the final games of the 1934 and 1990 FIFA World Cup. The latter took place in the Stadio Olimpico, which is also the shared home stadium for local Serie clubs SS Lazio, founded in 1900, and AS Roma, founded in 1927, whose rivalry in the Derby della Capitale has become a staple of Roman sports culture. Footballers who play for these teams and are also born in the city tend to become especially popular, as has been the case with players such as Francesco Totti and Daniel De Rossi, both for AS Roma, and Alessandro Nesta for SS Lazio. Rome hosted the 1960 Summer Olympics with great success, using many ancient sites such as the Villa Borghese and the Thermae of Caracalla as venues. For the Olympic Games, many new facilities were built, notably the new large Olympic Stadium, which was then enlarged and renewed to host several matches, and the final of the 1990 FIFA World Cup, the Stadio Flaminio, the Villaggio Olimpico Olympic Village, created to host the athletes and redeveloped after the Games as a residential district, EC. Rome made a bid to host the 2020 Summer Olympics, but it was withdrawn before the deadline for applicant files. Further, Rome hosted the 1991 Eurobasket and is home to the internationally recognized basketball team Virtus Roma. Rugby union is gaining wider acceptance. Until 2011, the Stadio Flaminio was the home stadium for the Italy national rugby union team, which has been playing in the Six Nations Championship since 2000. The team now plays home games at the Stadio Olimpico because the Stadio Flaminio needs works of renovation in order to improve both its capacity and safety. Rome is home to local rugby union teams such as Rugby Roma, founded in 1930 and winner of 5 Italian championships, the latter in 1999-2000 Unione Rugby Capitolina and SS Lazio 1927 rugby union branch of the Malta Sport Club SS Lazio. Every May, Rome hosts the ATP Masters Series tennis tournament on the clay courts of the Foro Italico. Cycling was popular in the post-World War Roman II period, although its popularity has faded. Rome has hosted the final portion of the Giro d'Italia 3 times, in 1911, 1950, and 2009. Rome is also home to other sports teams, including Volleyball M, Roma Volley, handball or water polo. Transport. Rome is at the center of the radial network of roads that roughly follow the lines of the ancient Roman roads which began at the Capitoline Hill and connected Rome with its empire. Today Rome is circled at a distance of about 10 km 6 mi from the capital by the ring road, the Gran Raccordo Annular, or GRA. Due to its location in the center of the Italian peninsula, Rome is the principal railway node for central Italy. Rome's main railway station, Termini, is one of the largest railway stations in Europe and the most heavily used in Italy, with around 400,000 travelers passing through every day. The second largest station in the city, Roma Tiburtina, has been redeveloped as a high-speed rail terminus. As well as frequent high-speed day trains to all major Italian cities, Rome is linked nightly by boat train sleeper services to Sicily, and internationally by overnight sleeper services to Munich and Vienna by OMA-BB Austrian Railways. Rome is served by 3 airports. The Intercontinental Leonardo da Vinci International Airport, Italy's chief airport, is located within the nearby Fiumicino, southwest of Rome. The older Rome Ciampino Airport is a joint civilian and military airport. It is commonly referred to as Ciampino Airport, as it is located beside Ciampino, southeast of Rome. A third airport, the Roma Urb Airport, is a small, low-traffic airport located about 6 km 4 mi north of the city center, which handles most helicopter and private flights. Although the city has its own quarter on the Mediterranean Sea, Lido di Ostia, this has only a marina and a small channel harbor for fishing boats. The main harbor which serves Rome is Port of Civitavecchia, located about 62 km 39 mi northwest of the city. The city suffers from traffic problems largely due to this radial street pattern, making it difficult for Romans to move easily from the vicinity of one of the radial roads to another without going into the historic center or using the ring road. These problems are not helped by the limited size of Rome's metro system when compared to other cities of similar size. In addition, Rome has only 21 taxis for every 10,000 inhabitants, far below other major European cities. Chronic congestion caused by cars during the 1970s and 1980s led to restrictions being placed on vehicle access to the inner city center during the hours of daylight. Areas where these restrictions apply are known as limited traffic zones, zona a traffico limitato ZTL in Italian. More recently, heavy nighttime traffic in Trastevere, Testaccio, and San Lorenzo has led to the creation of nighttime ZTL in those districts. A 3-line metro system called the Metropolitana operates in Rome. Construction on the first branch started in the 1930s. The line had been planned to quickly connect the main railway station with the newly planned F42 area in the southern suburbs, where 1942 the World Fair was supposed to be held. The event never took place because of war, but the area was later partly redesigned and renamed Esposizioni Universale di Roma, Rome Universal Exhibition, in the 1950s to serve as a modern business district. The line was finally opened in 1955, and it is now the south part of the B line. The line opened in 1980 from Ottaviano to Anagnina stations, later extended in stages 1999–2000 to Battistini. In the 1990s, an extension of the B line was opened from Termini to Rebibbia. This underground network is generally reliable, although it may become very congested at peak times and during events, especially the A line as it is relatively short. The A and B lines intersect at Roma Termini station. A new branch of the B line Bone opened on 13 June 2012 after an estimated building cost of euros 500 million. Bone connects to Line B at Piazza Bologna and has 4 stations over a distance of 3.9 km 2 mi. A third line, the C line, is under construction with an estimated cost of euros 3 billion and will have 30 stations over a distance of 25.5 km 16 mi. It will partly replace the existing Termini Pantano rail line. It will feature full automated, driverless trains. The first section, with 15 stations connecting Pantano with the quarter of Centosul in the eastern part of the city, opened on 9 November 2014. The end of the work was scheduled in 2015, but archaeological findings often delay underground construction work. A fourth line, D-Line, is also planned. It will have 22 stations over a distance of 20 km 12 mi. The first section was projected to open in 2015 and the final sections before 2035, but due to the city's financial crisis, the project has been put on hold. Above-ground public transport in Rome is made up of a bus, tram, and urban train network FR lines. The bus, tram, metro, and urban railways network is run by ATAC SPA, which originally stood for the Municipal Bus and Tramways Company, Azienda Tramvie Autobus del Comune in Italian. The bus network has in excess of 350 bus lines and over 8,000 bus stops, whereas the more limited tram system has 39 km 24 mi of track and 192 stops. There is also one trolleybus line, opened in 2005, and additional 2 lines were opened. International entities, organizations, and involvement. Among the global cities, Rome is unique in having 2 sovereign entities located entirely within its city limits: the Holy See, represented by the Vatican City-State, and the territorially smaller sovereign military order of Malta. The Vatican is an enclave of the Italian capital city and a sovereign possession of the Holy See, which is the Diocese of Rome and the supreme government of the Roman Catholic Church. For this reason, Rome has sometimes been described as the capital of 2 states. Rome, therefore, hosts foreign embassies to the Italian government, to the Holy See, to the Order of Malta, and to certain international organizations. Several international Roman colleges and pontifical universities are located in Rome. The Pope is the Bishop of Rome, and its official seat is the Archbasilica of St. John Lateran, of which the President of the French Republic is ex officio the first and only honorary canon, a title held by the heads of the French state since King Henry Roman IV of France. Another body, the Sovereign Military Order of Malta SMAUM, took refuge in Rome in 1834, due to the conquest of Malta by Napoleon in 1798. It is sometimes classified as having sovereignty, but does not claim any territory in Rome or anywhere else, hence leading to dispute over its actual sovereign status. Rome is the seat of the so-called Polo Romano, made up by 3 main international agencies of the United Nations: the Food and Agriculture Organization FAO, the World Food Programme WFP, and the International Fund for Agricultural Development IFAD. Rome has traditionally been involved in the process of European political integration. The treaties of the EU are located in Palazzo della Farnesina, the seat of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, because the Italian government is the depositary of the treaties. In 1957, the city hosted the signing of the Treaty of Rome, which established the European Economic Community, predecessor to the European Union, and also played host to the official signing of the proposed European Constitution in July 2004. Rome is the seat of the European Olympic Committee and of the NATO Defense College. The city is the place where the Statute of the International Criminal Court and the European Convention on Human Rights were formulated. The city hosts also other important international entities such as the ILO International Development Law Organization, the ICROM International Center for the Study of the Preservation and Restoration of Cultural Property, and the UNIDROIT International Institute for the Unification of Private Law. International relations. Twin towns and sister cities. Since 9 April 1956, Rome is exclusively and reciprocally twinned only with Paris, France. 1956 Solo Parigi e Grave Dignità di Roma, Solo Roma e Grave Dignità di Parigi. In Italian, Seul Paris est digne de Rome, Seul Rome est digne de Paris. In French, only Paris is worthy of Rome, only Rome is worthy of Paris. Other relationships. Rome's other partner cities are.
Thank you for watching. Consider supporting the channel, leave a like and subscribe.